Hey, what's going on everyone? So in this video, I just want to talk about my favorite subclass to Buildcraft on, which is Stasis. And the reason why I say that is because if you see the prismatic subclass, which may seem like the better Buildcraft subclass because you have all these different things that you can use, Stasis feels like they don't have anything in particular that you must run to make it good. When I say that, let's compare it to Prismatic, for example. If we go over to the Prismatic Warlock, everyone's running the Lightning Surge with Devour combo because it's the best thing that you can use in PvP. And if we go over to Titan, everyone's running the Knockout Diamond Lance combo because it's the best thing that you can do. And then if we go over on Hunter, everyone's running Winter Shroud with the Threaded Spectre because it's the best thing that you can run. All these subclasses have one thing in common, is that they have a powerhouse of aspects and fragments that they use, and that's because either one, the fragments are mostly bad, like on Solar for example, they're pretty bad right now because they depend too much on ignitions or your super. It's typically not something that you can take advantage of neutral game wise. Similar to Prismatic, a lot of the fragments require you to, or benefits Transcendence, which a lot of people probably don't really care about. So the fragments becomes like, oh, there's 3 fragments that I want and the other 3 are just there to increase my stat. I don't really care what their effects are. Now on Stasis is a little bit different, and maybe it's because nobody's running Stasis, so I don't have this perspective of everyone's running the same thing because nobody's running it. But let me just show you guys a cool interaction here with Chill Clip on Stasis Hunter. They recently reworked Stasis, like I think 4 months ago or something like that, where we have Frost Armor now. But basically Frost Armor is something that you can get mainly through the harvest aspects. Like each class have their own harvest and they have different requirements. These are basically engines to create stasis shards, but they also allow you to gain Frost Armor for picking up stasis shards. Now Frost Armor is a buff that can stack up to 5 or 8 times depending if you have the Whisper of Rime fragment or not. Now each stack will provide you with a 2% damage resist. So the normal value would be like you can stack up to 5 times, which is a 10% DR, which is equivalent to like Radiant's damage buff, right? So you're negating Radiant basically, or Radiant on reverse. And considering that most people value having 7 resilience just to resiliate 120 hand cannon crit to body ratio, I believe like a 10% damage buff is a huge difference when it comes to like ease of use of certain weapons. But basically if you have Whisper of Rime, it increases the stack to 8 times and increases the duration from 9 seconds to 13 seconds. Now Grim Harvest on Hunter specifically allows you to generate stasis shards by defeating targets that are slowed or frozen. Now inside of PvP, you will always generate the bigger version of the stasis shard. So there's 2 versions to stasis shards. You have the version that only provides you with 10% melee energy gain, and the bigger one, which provides you with 50% of your melee energy. On top of that, it provides you with different values of Frost Armor. So the smaller one gives you ×1 per shard, and the bigger ones give you ×3 right away per shard. So on Hunter, a simple example here is that I have the Arvandale FR6, which is a Stasis Fusion Rifle with Chill Clip. Now the cool thing about Fusion Rifles on Chill Clip is that you can apply the Chill Clip and then kill them after you apply the slow. Within a burst, if you have at least 3 ammo in the mag, you apply slow and you kill them right away, because the way Chill Clip works is direct hits with the top half of the magazine cause a detonation that slows nearby targets. So since you're defeating a slowed targets, you're going to create this big stasis shard crystal that you can pick up. You will gain 50% of your melee energy back, and it will also provide you with ×3 Frost Armor, which is a 6% damage resist. Now most of the value that comes out of Frost Armor is not actually from the damage resist itself, but instead it's from the fragments that you use. For example, I have this thing. While you have Frost Armor, melee damage slows target, and to be fair, this thing is pretty bad, but you can stack it with your melee ability. So if I have the Withering Blade, I can freeze targets just by hitting them twice with the Withering Blade. So like pre-nerf Stasis, for example, but mainly Whisper of Torment. I think this is one of the better design fragments that they've created, and basically what it does is that neutral game, you gain grenade energy each time you take damage from targets. It gives you, I think, 7.5% grenade energy back whenever you take damage, and it only have a 1 second cooldown. So if you take damage every 1 second, you're gaining 7.5% back every time. But having Frost Armor increases the amount of energy gain. So whenever you're Frost Armor, you get 12.5% instead. So this is again a way to cycle your ability. Not only that Stasis Shard passively gives you melee energy back, you're also getting grenade back through Whisper of Torment. And what I like about Whisper of Torment is that they're balancing it around something that you can't control, because you're basically relying your enemy to hit you, which your enemies have to hit you because they need to kill you, but it's not something that you can proc passively behind cover, right? Which is what I like about Whisper of Torment, which is why this is like one of my favorite design fragments in the entire game. And there are also other benefits like this. Whisper of Refraction, for example. Defeating slowed or frozen target grants class ability energy, works with my fusion rifle. Whisper of Conduction. Nearby stasis shards tracks to your position, so I don't have to individually pick up my stasis shards every time I create them. And that's not all the synergy that you can do. You can also use a collective action weapon. So whenever I get a kill with my fusion, with the top 50% of my mag, I spawn the little stasis shard, I gain frost armor, my melee energy back. I also proc collective action. Now, if you guys don't know what collective action does, basically for this specific build, whenever you pick up the stasis shard, it grants you a 10% damage buff inside of PvP for 8 seconds. So on a 720 RPM SMG, it decreases the time to kill from like 0.7 seconds to like 0.67 seconds. So yeah, overall, the subclass have a really good synergy with the subclass itself, with the ability cycle. And the abilities are not even like potent abilities like swarm grenades and smoke bombs and stuff like that. They are utilities, right? You slow them, you don't typically kill them. You can also create cover with the glacial grenade. It's what I like about Stasis. It has a lot of personality, I feel like. And it also synergizes with your weapon and armor mods and even your exotic armor. I have the renewal grasp here, which allows my dust field to have an increased radius. And whenever I'm in my dust field grenade, I can gain stacking bonus to my frost armor. So the longer I'm in my own dust field, I gain more frost armor over time. And not only that, Stasis is one of the best subclasses to pair with Elemental Charge. Now, if I'm being honest, I think Elemental Charge needs a buff. Like, I feel like the requirement to activate Elemental Charge for the armor charge needs to be way less. Because as it stands right now, you need multiple stacks to make it even usable. And it's not even like used because most of the mods that you want out of armor charge is from your leg armor, which, for example, are the weapon surge. No other mods really matter. Like, the font mods are pretty much useless other than the resilience one. Like, this thing, emergency reinforcement, is useless because it needs 3 stacks of armor charge, which is really unrealistic. And then we have the kickstart mods for both grenade and melee. And then we also have one for your class ability. All are useless because they don't give you enough inside of PvP to warranty spending armor charges. So yeah, I think new armor system is pretty bad because none of the mods gives you any value other than like weapon surge, which is also in the same slot as elemental charge and stacks on stacks. But yeah, enough talking about armor mods in general. I want to talk about the Titan one specifically, but I'm going to get back to elemental charge in a second because it is more reliable on Titan than any other class. And that's because you have the tectonic harvest. So yeah, this is the Titan variant of the harvest mod. Instead of getting a kill towards frozen or slow targets, you need to break stasis crystals. And the easiest way that you can provide yourself with stasis crystal is through glacial grenades. Now, normally people would use Howl of the Storm, but with the introduction of Whisper of Torment, I don't think it's a requirement anymore. Not to mention that without Cryoclasm, you need to individually break the crystals instead of just sliding into it. Basically, put down the crystal, break it with your cryo, you get frost armor, you get melee back, and stuff like that. But most importantly, you're creating a lot of stasis shards, specifically 5 shards, and you pick up at least 4 of those shards to proc 1 armor charge from elemental charge. I have double time dilation to make it longer, and 2 stasis weapon surge basically makes my lightweight frame SMG from, like, again, a 0.7 to a 0.67 across all resilience. And on my SMG itself, I have headstone, so that means whenever I kill someone with a headshot, it'll spawn a stasis crystal that I can break with my Cryoclasm and then gain 1 stack of frost armor that extends the duration of frost armor itself. So yeah, the difference here is that on Hunter, I'm using Chill Clip because it takes advantage of slow, and on Titan, I take advantage of Headstone so that I can create crystals to create stasis shards. I also have Bold Endings here, which is like the only weapon in the entire game of Destiny that have the perk combination of Headstone and Collective Action. So you guys can tell, Headstone creates crystal, I can break the crystal, gain collective action for damage buff. Right now, it's not really good on this weapon, but maybe in the future we can get it on SMGs or something like that. Going more in depth on Titan, I like the new iteration of Cryoclasm because it allows your Titan to have a burst of movement without having any initial movement or momentum. So for example, I have another build here. If I'm standing behind my towering barricade and if there's someone like a little bit further away, I can slide with my slug shotgun and get the kill, right? So that's like one value that you can get out of Cryoclasm, and you don't have to have a movement exotic to do that. And on top of that, you can also skate with it, so you can kind of do rollouts a little bit faster. Again, it's a burst movement, which is a lot better than what it was because you can reposition yourself in a way that doesn't force yourself to be like sprinting in a place. And the fragments are pretty much all the same here: Whisper of Conduction, Rhyme, Torment, and Hunger. And that's mainly because I'm using Harvest, right? If you're planning to take advantage of the Harvest builds, you're pretty much always going to run these 3 pairs, like Conduction, Rhyme, and Torment. But what I like about Stasis is that you don't have to run the Harvest. I feel like running Diamond Lance with Cryoclasm is also really good. On Hunter, you can run Shadow Dive with the Enhanced Grenade, which is also good. So it's not just like 2 pair of aspects that are good. You can use like 2 pairs of different aspects. That's what I like about Stasis. And finally, we move on to Shadebinder. Shadebinder doesn't really need the rework because it's already a standalone good subclass. And, you know, immobilizing targets in video games are usually a very good CC. This is a build that I used to use like 2 years ago, which is Frostbolt paired with Glacial Harvest, just for the healing that you can get from Whisper of Rhyme, because it used to give you an overshield. But now, since it heals you and it gives you damage resist, you can pretty much win every melee 1v1 if you somehow miss the Shatter on frozen targets. Glacial Harvest, unlike Grim Harvest on Hunter and Tectonic Harvest on Titan, this one can provide you with Stasis Shard upon freezing a target. And I believe it also gives you a big Stasis Shard if you freeze a Guardian, so in PvP for example, and you don't have to kill them, right? You only need to freeze them. And on Warlock specifically, you can also pair that with Whisper of Bond. Defeating frozen targets generate Orb of Power. You can pick up the Orb. Now on Warlock, I still think Frost Pulse with Ice Flare Bolts is a lot better just for the multi-kill capability. And on top of that, we have the weapon synergy, right? On Hunter, we have the Chill Clip synergy. On Titan, we have the Headstone synergy. And on Warlock, you have Conditional Finality. You can also use Conditional with Diamond Lance on Stasis Titan as well to create Diamond Lances off freezing targets. Basically, Conditional Finality allows you to freeze targets, and that would proc Glacial Harvest, right? They would also proc Ice Flare Bolts, which I feel like is a lot better. So yeah, basically that's it for this video. I hope the interactions that I've showed you guys today will spark new builds. Obviously, the things that I've showed you guys, the builds, quote unquote, are not refined. They're not good compared to the current meta. But yeah, who knows? Maybe there's someone out there that's willing to look into this interactions a bit more, and then maybe they have like a way to abuse it one way or another. But other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.